Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5. It's starting to sound a lot like Star Wars, but not intentional. So last time we managed to get the footRoll going, and that is animated purely for the sake of testing. So this whole thing started with a very simple requirement in mind, which is the way what people call reverse footRoll. Reverse being because it starts from the tip, which doesn't really make it reverse, but the way all of this started was to identify a cycle and make sure that we can break it, and that's why we isolated the footRoll. There's other reasons for it as well, computational too, but then we explain how we need to limit the IK chain, which is the cycle that we want to break, and we have then shown one of the problems of having the footRoll straight up under a control and just offsetting, which is if our leg is overextended for whatever reason. Can I just, yeah, I can just reduce that, that's cool. For whatever reason, and the limiting by the the limiting by the maximum chain length is done too early, with no consideration for the footRoll, what happens is that you can have a situation where your leg is extended like that, which might be the character tiptoeing, it might be the character jumping, and people wanting the IK for cheap animation blocking. Then you roll the foot and your leg gets actually compressed in like if it was not stretched out, whereas the desired behavior will be that this is also stretched by the right amount. So we set off on this quest to isolate the footRoll, and what I said is, when you really think about it, what we actually care about for the footRoll is the ankle itself. So depending on how the animators feel about it, you know, you might need to call this a foot control because that's what people think it is. You might need to place the icon somewhere there because it's what they might be using to do the biggest part of the work when it comes to actually setting steps, footsteps. But the reality is that it's actually an ankle, and as it is now, it doesn't affect rotation, which is fine. We don't need that just yet. So we set off on a quest to actually do the minimal amount of work possible to get that kind of behavior. So I've said it a couple of times, but I think it bears repeating. What we're doing now is literally producing sketches. We want to solve as much of the problem as possible with the sole intention of giving animators something that they actually can use to give us feedback on how the system works. And obviously I don't have an animator at hand here, neither would I want one in my studio, to be honest, not this early in the morning, and but the idea remains the same. So we're doing prototyping work. And all right, sorry, I was looking at chat for a second. Normally, as I said before, you know, using SDKs or DKs like set-driven keys, using expressions, stuff like that, when it will eventually come even in the stream to optimization, all of that stuff you might want gone, or you might need to manage more tightly, but for the time being, that's perfectly fine. So the offset we talked about is basically the ankle offset, and again, for the neutral pose of these, you could do some very, very simple maths, like you could take the length of these and then the length of these by the sine of this angle, like the rest angle, then add that to this angle and, you know, get the sine, the cosine, sorry, in this case, get the cosine of that, add those numbers together, and you will get the rest position of this node without needing to add any objects to the DAG. We don't quite care yet, so what we want to do to see what this offset is find the default position for this item. So we'll create ourselves a group, and bones to delete, terrible name, but apparently not working, that's fine. So we are gonna call this ankle rest. And again, the reason why I was saying normally you might, well, not normally, but finally you might want to actually use the same data that you use to guide and configure these to derive the rest, is that if you were to just put these under the ankle, because we want to get a difference, If you were to put these under the ankle like this, then when your foot roll moves, that also moves, which is not exactly what we want. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking for a second. I don't think I have undo time changes on. For those that don't know it, in the preferences you can set whether undo undoes your timeline changes or not. I don't think I have it on. I don't particularly like it or feel I need it when I rig. I don't know. I think animators are more interested in something like that. So 0, 0, we seem to be good. So this is the ankle rest. And there's not a lot more that we need actually. What we want to figure out is that offset. So we want to subtract one from the other. I also suggest that you get yourself a diagnostic object of sorts to see what's going on. And chat, by the way, take offense. Let me know if the audio is good, if there's clipping or not, or if there's anything. I trust you guys with that. Then what we want to do is subtract, and this is the... I love the naming of the nodes. This comes from like many years ago. At this point, it's probably almost 20 years, where you have, you know, proper algebraic operation names for some nodes, and then for some other you have plus, minus. An average is thrown in there because why not? I guess the rationale back then was we don't want to create too many nodes. So we want the final minus the rest, I guess. Final minus the rest should be in the direction we want it. Let's try that. So there's gonna, my thing today is mostly gonna be nodeling. Let's see how that goes. So there's a comment in chat saying it could be worse, it could be named elementary school math node. Cool. So as we do this job, we obtain absolutely nothing of relevance because we want to subtract to begin with. So we want it in the other direction. Now the fact that I'm not getting an update bothers me, but we'll see. And we'll need to negate one of the factors. What is going on here? Okay. Oh, because I'm looking at the local transform, some stupid, yeah. That makes sense now. So the local transform of these is not changing. Whatever. Now, so what I want to do is actually, like the rest is in this space here, so it's fine. But the transform for these I actually want to get in the word space. So provided these have no transforms, which they shouldn't do, but they shouldn't have, we should be fine now. I might be missing some plugins, or they might not be loaded. I should have checked that pre-stream, but so there's a, oh, and if you don't know, there should be a matrix plugin that I thought was always on by default, and that's the one where you get the decompose matrix and compose matrix nodes from. I do not remember what it's called, so I need to read this stuff. Don't care for Bifrost, alcohol, tobacco and firearms, also don't care. FBX, shapes, Arnold, substance, XGen. It's called matrix nodes. Yeah, I thought, oh, there you go. I thought it was called matrix something. So hopefully that dynamically loads, yes. So we use these a million times. I have no idea why that was not loaded. I don't remember ever unloading it, but sure, doesn't matter. And or maybe I loaded it without auto load once, and then because we loaded scenes that had the node scene, it will always get reloaded. And the rest is fine. We can use the local right away. We don't need to convert anything. Whereas for the bone, we actually want to get the word matrix adder, despite the fact there's only one possible input it could connect to. It feels it needs to ask me. Thank you. It's very nice of you. It's being very polite. That's the ankle rest. And we have that. So still not doing much, but that's because I also did not connect these. So it's just a straight up compound. That's good. That is getting us somewhere. Now I probably undid when I set the subtract. Alright. Starting to be reasonable-ish. Now, let's have a quick look at that. So this is my ankle rest, which is fine as it is. Everything should be aligned the same. The word position for that. Let me just double check that this is what I would expect. Yes, so that's hooking up correctly. And at that point, yeah, that looks more or less correct. So what we're getting here is this arc from there, that the foot is sorry, that the foot is producing to the ankle. We're just getting it in some other space that's reduced. So that seems legit, seems good enough to me, which means that once we have a footRoll like that, lots of nodding today, and this is always slow going, we do have the rest ankle that we want. So right away, I guess we could take our sketch, and we had the foot ankle here, an IK handle. Did we not constrain it or anything? I don't remember how we hook things up for that. So let's have a quick look. Heap solver. So this is just getting the standard stuff. Ankle control. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So this is, for a second I thought this was the leg, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. The ankle should not be in the same chain. So this is this actual chain. We good with that? Now, we say that we would have the ankle control and a limited ankle where we put stuff under. We don't really need that anymore, so let's put that up there for a second. Still no parenting. I really need to look into that because it's driving me insane. We can get rid of all of that. Don't care for it. These can now live in the space of the limited ankle. In fact, limited ankle like that. Are we doing anything good? So we're already limiting that. We want the ankle rest. What am I doing here? So give me a moment for that. Okay. I called that ankle rest, which is completely wrong. No, I didn't. Oh, okay. I just put that with a stupid name in the center of the word. Good. So that's ankle, rolled ankle offset. Now ankle control is fine. Rolled ankle offset is what we want. Still no parenting, man. So as we do that, we're good. Now what we want to do is the footRoll, as I was saying before. I just run with whatever the joints, you know, where with no orient stuff going on. Obviously, once you rig something that is in a different space, that's a completely different deal. You might have a different space traveling down the leg. You might have a word space that is not oriented the same way. Normally, I rig with the Z forward being the direction of travel, so the fit will be facing that way. There's no particularly good rules for what you should choose. It's like whatever is convention at your place is good. So not too bad. We can work with that. These progress is in the negative, whereas we will want it in the positive. So what we are going to do now is take that offset, now that it's parented under a space that makes sense. We want the X to go down the Z, so we're going to do a little bit of switcheroo for some parts. And then we'll need to negate one. So the Z of my output should be the one traveling in the X. The Y we can keep as is, and the X itself, which is the offset sideways, we wouldn't really care for much, but let's have a look. Sure, we can do that. Just in case, like we will eventually add all the banking and all that stuff, and we will need all coordinates. So that should only need a negation now. Am I doing it right? Yeah. So there you go. That's the roll forward. You know, and this is the heel back. So, and it's properly placed in the space of the control we're going to be using for the ankle. So we want is a multiply to negate something. I mean, ideally I'd like a unary node. A unary operation is an operation that only takes one input, so negate is one of those. You take one number, you negate. Now, oh, we have an animator in chat. As animators unloaded it because and I said that I want to negate what I'm using to go in the Z, which is the X here. That is actually really good. We need more animators. We need to convert more animators. You are not the enemy if you join the cult. Know that. Yes, there's always the risk that the animator might be a spy, but I don't know. I reckon it's worth paying the price. If we can convert more animators to, you know, knowing about rigging, it might make our lives easier in the long run. It's not an exclusive club. You can animate and rig. In fact, some of my favorite people actually do both. And some people with some really wacky and really good ideas do both. Raf Anzovin is one of those. Now, that looks alright. We got what we wanted. Now this is just the diagnostic. You can remove the shape. Roll the ankle offset. Why did I name it with a... Did I name it with a 1? Oh no, it's just a T. Oh wow. Sorry. I thought there was 1 at the end. Now, good with that. Then the other thing we say is that we might even just keep right away. We're just prototyping, want to ensure behavior is correct. So what we're doing here was taking the position of the hip, which makes sense, doing a distance between these, and we would have got something else, I imagine, and the ankle control, limiting that, doing all the operations. I think this is actually likely to be reasonable as it is. The only thing is that instead of the ankle control, we should be able to get the word space for the rolled ankle offset and limit based on that. Let's see how that works out. Come on, don't let me down. And we will want to, so we're working in word space for the sake of simplicity. We're working off the hip here. We're getting its local transform for now because it is it doesn't have anything offsetting it, which means its local transform and its word space are the same. So we, however, for the rolled ankle offset, we probably do want to, actually without probably, I imagine we do want to get the input as the word space. And for the record, if you look at the graphs, you can clearly see how what we're doing, like this is literally just diagnostic. At this point, you know, we could be taking, where is it? We could do some simple additions and use a matrix multiplication right away without having intermediate objects. But again, as you prototype, it's good to have some visual cues, unless, and then you clean them up, unless you know exactly what you're doing, and you're just going through the motions, no pun intended. So let's see, that might or might not be what we want. We might need to noodle this a bit. So the behavior is mostly correct. Now we need to, did I take the proper matrix? Yes, that's the word matrix. I might need to noodle things a bit. And actually I did move this away from the word, so that will not make sense. We do have some mistakes that we need to look at, but okay, so we do have the rolled ankle offset, which seems correct. We are getting the distance between these, which I would expect to be in word space. Yes. Then we are clamping it by, so we're adding the length of the two bones here, femur and tibia length. We're clamping that plus minus average. What am I doing here? Multiply, divide, plus, oh, there you go. So this ankle control, why am I using this vector product here for? Normalize output. So yes, this is the one that I'm remultiplying. Okay, that makes sense now. I was still using the ankle control for a few things, so that makes sense. Now, there you go. Just so that it's clear, before what we were doing was taking these two lengths for these two bones in the legs and going like, okay, that's the distance we want to limit by, and we obtained it by simply adding some settings, which was pretty trivial. Then we go, okay, that's the maximum length we want. So what we did was take that value as well as the actual distance between this node and our target, and pick the smallest of the two. So if our distance here is less than the actual full length of the chain, we don't always space out by the entire length of the chain, whereas if it's greater than the reach of the chain, we take the lowest of the two value, which is the maximum length of the chain. And then from that, we're actually getting this control, and because that's a target, you know, it's gonna overreach and all of that. Then we're limiting that back in. So before we're doing it with the ankle control right away, which showed the issues that we wanted to fix, and then I had to replace it in two spots, not one. So hopefully that will make sense of what we did before. Now, is this, so that is what I was saying basically. If the character was tiptoeing, and this is a very large footRoll, like this is a pretty massive foot for like that stumpy, but you know, hopefully you get the idea. It's very possible that the animator will place the control in such a way that, and we have animators in chat that can actually tell us whether that's the truth or not. They might put the control over there to get the character to, well, this is another case actually, if the character was arcing, they might put the control over there and then expect that as the footRoll kicks in, they do get that compression, but before the footRoll kicks in, they don't. The other case is if you're a lazy animator and you use the footRoll to put the character on tiptoes, you also want to still be able to control that and place your footsteps on the ground and not having to do extra work to second guess what the difference will be. I reckon that's enough blabbering about this detail for now. So chat, I'm trusting you. Does it all make sense up to here? The reason why we did all of these? Hopefully it does. If not, I'll explain what still needs explaining. Now, the ankle rest here is under there, and we're using a bunch of local spaces. So this needs to stay in word space unless we start doing the right subtractions and all. So what's next? We do have the roll working on the limit properly. Should work for the heel back as well. Yes, it does. So we do want to get the ankle to rotate something, and we do need a foot actually. So we're not worrying about the FK component of the leg yet, but we might need to do a little bit of cleanup on these. I'm not gonna do that just yet. We're fine with the limited ankle. We don't really strictly need it. We could just drive the IK handle right away, but as you prototype, it doesn't hurt to have a couple buffer objects in there. It just makes it easier to switch things around, so we're gonna keep that for a moment. We're probably gonna keep that for another stream or two, I guess. Next thing we want is an actual foot. In fact, I would also very much like these not to be this massive foot, I guess. Hard to tell. Let's not do it just yet. Let's actually work with this massive foot only for now. So we'll probably and if you can work in non-default positions, by the way, I recommend you do, because rigs, like, it's very easy to rig something and everything always works when everything is nicely aligned to some axis and in the word center and all of that. Especially when prototyping, if things are slightly askew, that's how they're going to be in every single shot. So if you can map your brain to that and work purely with, you know, the product and the operations of the graph and not need to look at the transfer specifically, you usually end up in a better place. The rig will be more robust. Is it a pain to get the leg to stretch after this setup? No, not really. It's actually pretty simple. So we are going to do the leg IK. We're going to roll through these in the order of light. Let's get the foot roll done. Let's make sure that the foot itself follows the IK. And then we're going to start looking at the leg itself, so at the AK, because like this is not good. I mean, this pop here, there's good mathematical reasons for that. That's a tangent reaching asymptotes, and we'll explain that. We'll explain how soft IK works and why you shouldn't really use soft IK. Well, it depends on what you consider soft IK, but laggy soft IK is terrible. So with some angular limits and stretching, you can get very good compensation for that. We will explain all of that, but it's after the foot. We'll want to get something done for the foot first. So with all of that said, I guess that our next step will be to get a couple of bones or controls or whatever. We're going to use more bones for now for visualization that represent that. So I definitely want, and I need to go forward because this is what is going to be the FK for the foot. Pardon me. Now, we should be good with just a couple joints. So something like that, and then we'll get the numbers from. So this is gonna get me joint orients, which is what I always recommend you guys don't have if you can avoid it. This is where? What? Oh, because I clicked near one of those? Good lord. Yeah, recycle that. Oh. And parenting worked. Amazing. And okay, they're doing street work nearby, so you guys can probably hear that. Okay. Noddling. Always so exciting. So, sorry, occasionally I catch up with chat. Blast that away. Orientations, cerebral. Not really, but definitely get rid of that one. And actually, I'm gonna go for a super small tangent because this has been bothering me. When you create bones and when you reparent them, which is sometimes a pain in the back as well, Maya will create this thing, which is a scaling compensation connection for you. So when you look at these joints, you have segment scale compensate, and turning it on and off actually does not remove that connection, which is maybe fair enough. And what that does is it makes joints behave like bones do in some other apps, so that you can use a scaling, and that scaling is local. And you can see that when you scale something like this, you are seeing this, the joint icon itself doesn't change. You see the scale applied to the bone between the joints, and the following joints not having any, not changing for it. Don't like it, don't need it. I will eventually replace joints with plane transforms, which do not behave like these. It's a very special property. So I always sever these connections because they also make the graph messier, and I do not care for a messier graph unless there are good reasons for it. There you go, you're done. That's all you need to know. Some tools might rely on that, none that I know of. You might see that connection re-established all the time, and when you do scaling rigs, that gets in the way so much. So if you don't need that feature, and we don't the way we rig here, just sever those connections once you know that the chain is good and oriented and set up the way you want it. That's it. That's the tangent I wanted to take care of. Now, next step is getting these angles right. So we could very simply, like, what's the match transform like these days? Modify, they added transformation matching after so many years, which is great. If we match translation, okay, this is behaving the way I would expect it to. Whoever did this tool at Autodesk, thank you. It works the way I expect it. That's a tool I like. So now that's matching, except it's in the other direction. We do not have silly orientations. I expect those minus, like that you will always see them. I think they're just precision artifacts. It won't hurt to remove them, or you could print the values in a script and see what their actual full extent is. So we have an IK handle that is successfully limited. Was it limited ankle? So limited ankle I expect to be correct. Probably should have put a diagnostic in there. Seems good to me. So for now, let's do the simplest possible thing and actually put that in there. Also no parenting again. I really need to figure that out. It is so irritating. Now, do not need these. We are slightly off for some reason. Do we have any silly transforms? Okay, we have a small offset on the IK handle. There you go. There's also some rotation, which really sorts no effect that we care about. So now we need to orient these, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting, I guess. Middle click parenting isn't working. Yes, middle click parenting, like drag and drop, is the parenting that works. What I was referring to is P and Shift P, which I use all the time. I constantly like duplicate, move up and down the hierarchy. I like to keep my hands on the keyboard for those things. When you work with joints, sometimes they stop working for a short interval of time, and I'm sure there's actually an actual logical reason for it, or at the very least there must be a well-defined circumstance where that happens. I just haven't been able to dig through it. And I'm trying to think. I think I was getting it at work as well. I haven't been rigging at work for a while. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just annoying. So the other thing we do want to do is, okay, I wanted to get the tool. Okay, now the tool settings are working. Sure. See, this stuff is like, it just kind of does my head in, to be honest. This, like when you dock the tool settings, like you could see it didn't refresh, then the snap looked like it was doing nothing, and it was actually working, and until I touched the manipulator it didn't do anything. It's like, I could do without those glitches. Anyway, so what do we have here? Okay, this behavior is fine. Now here's another thing that you might find, you know, animators will have wildly different preferences on these, and it still looks like we have an offset of sorts, which I don't like, but it doesn't matter just yet. I'm lying, it matters because it's bothering me. Oh no, we do have a footRoll in there. Okay, cool. Now we're good. So, and that gets a little bit tricky. So if this is the control that you use to place footsteps, I mean, its pivot is going to be likely at the ankle. What do you want the rotation for that to do? And also, let me get rid of that snap, because that's going to be a nightmare. So what do you want the rotation to do in that case? Now, what it's doing at this present time is rolling that ankle offset, and that's just an artifact of how we're actually computing those things. So is this behavior what you want? Like, especially if this is at the ankle, like, would you want the foot to rotate before the offset? Would you actually expect, let's say, the behavior that you would have in zero state always? And that will determine what cycles you do or do not have. And the foot isn't hooked up yet, but okay. Would you expect the foot to rotate? And that's it. It's like, it's kind of tough to know what people want in those regards. But let us not bother with that for a moment and go for something simple. Actually, we have an animator in chat. What would you want? Like, if this is notionally is actually your footstep control, and the icon itself, like you know, this is probably going to be somewhere down there, but the pivot is going to be there. It will be for the foot to orient to the control. So, but is it the foot from the ankle, or would you want it to act as a plant? That's the thing where people disagree, and I find most of the time it's the ankle. So if you angle the foot, I expect the foot to follow. I'm gonna go for what I've been asked for most of the time. But here's the thing: is like, this is really an ankle, but people will often use it as a foot. Ankle. So yeah, the most common answer I get, and often people that wanted the foot-like behavior will go like, no, sorry, I was wrong. I'd rather it's an ankle. It reduces the number of controls that somebody needs to place the step and then rotate something, especially when you're operating in the air. And the idea of like working off the plan, people will normally want another control, or they will use the attributes of the footRoll, or you use mix of the two. That happens kind of after the fact. So we're gonna go for that, but I guess the whole point of that tangent was ask your animators and make sure that you know right away what they want, because it can dramatically change how you organize the hierarchy while you're in, you know, prototype stages. So what happens right now when we do that is that we have an offset because we've chosen a very simple model, and when you rotate that, that offset is also rotating, which is, you know, not something that we will want. So we'll have to sort that out. But for a moment, let's forget about that, and let's take our foot, and we're gonna operate without rolling for now, and call that. Our naming convention is all over the place, but at this point, I don't particularly care just yet. And my stomach is grumbling like hell. I don't know if that actually came through. And that is gonna be... Sure. Again, naming convention all over the place. Don't necessarily care just yet. Simplest thing we can do here is chances are that animators will want this stuff oriented in the workspace because it's going to be very IK-like. So we align to the XYZ, and that is one of the reasons why I made sure that this was align XYZ. Now, foot ankle here as a joint, we will need to swap some of these coordinates because to do what I just talked about, we don't want that. So what we want is to take the toes here, and because we're extracting just offset and angles, we can do that very, very comfortably. We will want that translate that is now on the X to be in the positive Z. So I would need to change those values in there as well. For now, we are gonna be, so we want that at 0. Actually, no, we can, because we have just one swap to do, we can comfortably copy and paste those and negate. Now, foot tip, same deal. Right now it's going down the X. We want that positive. And if you do a select all copy and paste, I think you'll take values that are further than the decimal places that you see here, but don't quote me on it, in the attribute editor at least. Don't quote me on that. So we are now properly aligned, which means that for that behavior to happen, we can very, very simply just hook up the rotation, I believe. So we should be good with just that. Again, we're trying to prototype as much as possible. That's a desire, because it's when you do those prototypes that you figure out if your assumptions work or not. So fast and loose, to some extent at least, will work alright. For now, we should still be good to work in word space and expect to pretty much, like normally, like this whole process that's taking me, you know, several streams because I'm explaining, it will probably be, I don't know, maybe an hour or so to get to the point where we're at now, if I was still figuring it out. So yeah, go fast and loose, spend the morning putting the whole thing together, putting the whole component together if you can. And then go from there. So let's be nasty. Let's not use gimbal. So that seems to be the behavior that we wanted. So we got that. We got this rotation that will control the foot straight up. We still have to link individual channels. Yeah, you're not getting... linking individual channels is... Oh, sorry. No, you don't. You can do just that. You can link the compound. I was doing that because before I was swapping some axes, so I was doing that mental mode. Now you can just do that, if that's what you mean. You can link compounds just fine. Now, that should actually... I know it was a problem long ago. So yeah, we're eventually going to get into that. There is a difference between the sub-channels and the overall compound channel when it comes to parallel evaluation and Digimod and so on, but it's... no, there's no problems with it really. You can just link the compound and you'll be fine. So if there are problems, there's none that I've found with the way I rig at least that will be affected by it. So the issue we have now is that no, we don't have that issue because we just put the rotation in. Now we would have that issue. So yeah, it's rotating that offset as well, which is not what we want. So what does that mean? Then we need to reshuffle a few things. So I'm looking at the time and wondering whether I want to fix that now or leave it for later. Because if the chat has any questions, please put them in now, because I'm gonna shut this down very soon in like 10 minutes or something like that. And I'm just wondering whether this is a bigger task than we can accomplish in the next 10 minutes or whether I should go for it. So it's mostly, so it's not a big deal actually. What is happening here is that we're using the control itself and the rolled ankle to drive that, and we have put the... Yeah, I'll solve it, I guess. We have put these right under the limited ankle, so it's when you do something like these, you know, it's transforming that, and you might or might not want it. I reckon we're probably gonna actually... Yeah, I'm so torn about it, because this is going to be your foot, so it's got to stay that way in those regards for now. Go for it, go for it, go for it. No, I don't think I can do it in 9 minutes, because I need to figure out what I want to do, to be honest. Because in some rigs this is considered acceptable, where you go, okay, there's these offset. Because if you don't allow for these offset from your footstep, where do you get the rotation from? I mean, there's ways to do it, don't get me wrong, but it can get a little bit trickier where you go like, there's things you can do where you go, okay, I'll use the projection of these offset, sorry, I will project that offset on the verticality of the foot or something like that, because nobody's ever going to do these and that, but we're probably going to keep these as is for now. So I said, you know, I don't know if I want to fix it, but the reality is that it's not really a bug. I mean, it's expected behavior. It's whether you want another one or not, but it becomes, your state becomes very uncertain when you start not propagating it. So I'll think about it for a little bit maybe, and then we'll figure it out. So any questions on these insofar? And let's see, so we got the foot control to work. I don't like it for some reason, but I know that a lot of people in the past asked me to keep it that way. It can get very useful, to be honest. Yeah, no, I know. Some people actually like it, and it's one of the things that makes the most sense. Because right now, okay, so let's actually do something about it to explain what is going on. So without roll, what we're doing now is what we have implemented is not really a foot control. So let's make that clear. What we have implemented is an ankle control, and now that we have the footRoll hooked, we can actually hide that. And okay, that's not too far off where it should be. Our animator slide that to my work. The footRoll is pretty much used on the ground. Once the foot lifts, I'm zeroing out the controls and using orientation. Oh, the foot control is solid. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like if you start implementing that. This is a feature, not a bug. In this case, it's kind of true. So this is really an ankle control. And what a lot of people do, whether it's right or not, you know, I'm not gonna judge that, is then they offset, and let's say we do the same, because that's the way a lot of people like to work in my experience. This thing, man. I need to set up my shortcuts and my preferences properly. What a lot of people do from there is lower these to the ground, you know, add a couple of serifs coming out so that it's selectable, and say, hey, this is your footstep control. And maybe, you know, ankle footstep or something like that would not be a bad name for it. But, you know, be aware of it. Now, the other thing I did not want here is that shape to stay. So let me hide just the shape for now. We'll keep the diagnostic at hand. So yeah, this basically becomes, despite the fact that the pivot is shown there, and that's the part where, you know, might or might not get confusing. That's the general behavior you look at, and that's the foot you get out of it. So, you know, these, because that is placed there, if there is some roll, you know, the transform itself will tell you, like, whether you're on or not. So, like, whether the footRoll is offset or not, and whether that makes sense or not. As I say, some people like it. I think most people tend to ask me to have it. Some tricks you can do will allow you to project things and have separate items, but the so long as you, like, you're orienting the foot with it, and these could be turned on or off, for the record. You could have something called a line to sheen, or on or off. Normally you get consistent behavior, at least, which is generally speaking the part you really always want. I mean, people can deal with a lot of quirks in a rig so long as there's some consistency to the madness. Let's keep it that way for now. Let me undo some of those modifications, because, well, at least while prototyping, I find it very confusing to do that kind of stuff. I guess you could have an extra control to rotate the foot from the rolled ankle position. You will. So the next thing we're going to do is actually implement the foot. Belabored that a bit, you know, meandered a bit, but it's one of those things. Like, rigging is kind of that, and I guess the stream is supposed to convey that, where you look at a problem, you go, this could go one of 5 ways. When you're in that in dubbed, luckily we had a couple animators in the chat this time around. When you're that in dubbed, ask the users, and try and put together the various situations where you go, hey, it could do these, these, and these, even if they're sketchy, and show them to your animators and ask them what they think they will prefer in that case. And keep your sketches around, because chances are that when that thing gets into a more complex shot, or when more shots of the movie or whatever it is that you're working on come through, the general behavior that people expected from the rig becomes the not so common one, and every shot is special. Yeah, comment in Chaz. Whenever we ask our animators, do you want to do X or Y, they say both. Yes, that is super common, and that's what I'm saying. Keep all the sketches around, and then often people go like, oh, add these and add that, and add these and add that, and then can you add a blend, by the way? Sure. And then the rig becomes a massive switchboard of 500 million options that you can toggle on and off, and have really odd side effects all over the rig. And it's like, that's normal. Like, rigs in a facility, like, that pendulum swings. Like, they, you know, they start and they're nice and snappy and everybody knows where everything is, and within a few weeks the pendulum has swung all the way to complexity and the rig is completely unmanageable, and they go like, oh no, turn that off, hide that, but don't get rid of it. So, you know, swing the other way, and at one point they go like, where's that option gone? It takes several productions, in my experience, to get components right in a state where most of your leads, the people that you retain between productions, will like them, and then will be, you know, willing to evangelize with the other animators or with the new hires coming in. So let's get a little bit of the foot done, like maybe 5 minutes of it. Now, the other thing is sometimes they want it absolutely different, but please let this option. Yeah, there's all kind of stuff that happens. But here's the thing: it's like there's a phrase that's used, you know, disparagingly usually, which is keep showing me stuff, I'll know it when I see it. Usually it's attributed to indecisive or incompetent directors, but the reality is that all artists work that way. There's a tactile feeling to software And you know, I used to kind of resent that attitude. I've come to accept that, well, not really resent, but I used to find it annoying. It was like, why can't you just make your mind up? I mean, the maths is so clear. Like for animators, this is software. This has a tactile feeling. These are, you know, things they interact with. And you cannot really foresee the tactile experience of operating on rig without actually using it. So anyway, we said that on top of that, what we've done here with these things is not really establish the foot itself as much as establish the buffers for the controls that will be the FK for the foot. Now, what I am gonna do next is, we're not gonna worry with the FK aspect of it just yet, is bring back in the footRoll. I've been blabbering for like, you know, over 5 minutes now. I feel like we need to do something. So bring that back in and show a, wow, whatever okay. I'm not sure what I did there. And as this footRoll happens, now what we're missing is basically this orientation and that orientation. And let's go for the easiest one to do. So this angle between these two items, provided you don't have some, you know, weird foot breaking backwards or stuff like that, in the footRoll alone, we're only concerned with the footRoll for now, is the same angle. Like the angle between these two remains exactly the same. So we should be able to take, and this is why I like to not have joint orients and stuff like that, because it just makes this thing unnecessarily painful. I should be able to take the value of, so we say, yep, the rotate Z for that. What am I doing here? Let me make sure that that's, yeah, that's changing the way I expect it to go. So I should be able to take the value of rotate X Z here and literally just straight up use it for this one. And in this case, it will be for the X, I believe. So let's do that. And I'm picking a low-hanging fruit. This gets just a tiny bit more complicated, but not much really. Do I have it in here at all? Don't care just yet for the scales, but so what I want is this. And because we're not really doing any fancy banking or anything like that, we don't have many worries in the war just yet. In fact, at this point, the angle between those two is always going to remain trivial. Come on. And we say rotate Z to rotate X, I believe. Okay. Might need to negate. Possibly. Or also possibly doing something very wrong. No. I don't have joint orients in there now. Cool. So that's my first session here. Can you please explain why you hate joint orients so much, and do you never orient them so they always have word orient in your rigs? No, it's not a stupid question at all. I have explained it in the previous couple of videos. I find joint orient to be a massive complication, quite simply. And one that I don't really need. So joints, I don't dislike joint orient. I mean, if you use the vanilla toolset, there's a million times when they can come in handy. But they're an additional transform. So joints are special in that on top of having this transform the same way you would have for a group, then before they actually affect, sorry, in this case I should pick this, before they affect what is after them or how they're affected by what's before them, is also transformed by the joint orient. And then you could have segment scale compensation on, which means that when you scale bone-like and not. I find it just too complicated that I can have something like that and it's in word space basically, but because of the joint orient, the actual axis of the bone do not behave the same way. So I don't hate them, and there's a reason for them to be that way. Because if you're not very strict about certain things, or if you need to offset transforms as you go down a chain, or if you need to change what is your roll axis in a rig, as you go down the chain. Like that's actually pretty useful. But because we're rigging with a lot of row connection and a lot of row maps and trying to use very small subsets of the toolset and actually put the rig together as a set of functions, they get in the way. Because you then don't quite know until you have also looked at the joint orient what's going on. It's just too much info for me when I want to keep things simple. They have their place. It's just not how I roll, no pun intended. So no, it's not a stupid question at all. It's actually a pretty good question. I need to look at the angle above there actually, because this might be correct. So in this case, the part that's missing basically is the orientation of this one matching that. And that's the one that's slightly different because, sorry, the angle between these two is, and should be the same. The angle between this as the last item and the plane of the foot is probably not gonna be, you know, as simple as whatever angle it has right now. In fact, right now it's probably zeroed out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna, because it's already past the hour and I need to go to work, I'm gonna leave these for tomorrow actually. And what we are gonna do tomorrow is basically start looking at the transforms for these, which is the reverse footRoll, and straighten them up in NFK-like behavior. So do all the operations, which are all trivial. It's like right now my head is in a different space. They're all trivialities of like getting basically these oriented that way and these, the angle between these two, verify that once these is oriented is what we expect and all of that. And basically transmit the reverse of this configuration into the FK for a foot. And that will give us the buffers for the foot controls. Let's leave it at that for now. And I'll do a couple questions and then close this. We'll be releasing these project files once finished. I haven't had a chance to watch the entire series, but would love to be able to check out the final one on network. Yes, eventually I actually release them as the series goes. When something is worth releasing, like as an example, and we might be fast approaching that point, I do. And so let me show you on the website. So what you have is basically this. This is the website, cultofreak.com. There's a part called resources, and if you go to pilot season download, you will see a bunch of files, and these are just shared Google Drives, and you will find, and this is basically a bunch of scenes when the graph itself made sense. I just added the scenes in there and go like, hey, pick it up. There's the geometry that I use so that if people want to, you know, if people don't want to model the same thing I'm using, they just want to pick something up, they can. So yeah, that's it. So I will probably soon enough, I guess, this weekend, I will look at actually, yeah, releasing these scenes. You know, as soon as the graph becomes complicated enough and has seen some minimal cleanup, it's worth releasing it. So there was another question. What are you doing if your model has spread fingers and so, and they're bended, so the joint orient is necessary or not? No, I find that you never really need it. That's basically different. The joint orient is the same as adding a buffer between items. So it's, if you have something like the fingers are like that, the joint orient does make sense for joints. So very often when you look at the actual skeleton for something, you know, people will go and put a joint there, then put one there, and they might even use this joint transform. So if you want a pre-buffer transform without adding extra DAG objects, they can be pretty useful in fact for that. That's why I'm saying they do make sense the way they have been conceived in the software, where you go, you know, for this joint I want, you know, it's got whatever length and orientation, like the actual transform, not a joint orient. The next one, as far as representing bones goes, and for me to buffer something for like these in the end of 90s and beginning 2K, a lot of rigs actually had exposed bones and joints that you use to control. Always been a phenomenally bad idea, but it was a thing. Some people still do it if you're in a hurry, I guess. So that ability to offset things as you go down a chain. I hope people could see it. Yeah, I think so. It is useful. It's just really useful. It's like if you don't want extra objects, you have that thing you can use. And then if you want different behaviors, especially for partial IK chains and stuff like that, it's also useful. It's just the way I rig and the way I divide work and divide components and all of that, I find they get in the way. They simply get in the way. They confuse things. They add transforms that do not have, like, it does save you DAG items. It's a quality I don't like. Because I like to know everything I have and everything I'm doing. So all right, it seems that thanks everybody for the thanks. By the way, if you're watching these on YouTube, it's really nice, like the comments where people are saying, oh, you know, thanks for doing it, I like it, and all of that. If I don't reply to every individual, you know, YouTube comment, it's not that I'm not grateful. It's really nice when people acknowledge it. It's just, unless there is a question, I'm not gonna pollute the communication. But please know that, you know, I certainly do notice them. And I think that the rest is all thanks and goodbye. So we are good. I definitely need to go to work. It's been good attendance today, actually. All right. Thanks everybody for watching this. I am stopping the recording now. Have a good day, afternoon, night, whatever time it is over there. See ya.